So the Philadelphia 76ers and Nick Nurse had made public comments to the effect of like Joel's just ramping up, and he just needs to ramp up, and that's why he hasn't been playing. But it seems like the truth is that he's got some issues with his knee, that should have like been on an injury report, all of this stuff. So they get fined for that, and they're embroiled in some other drama. Um, Yesterday, Will, I don't know if you saw this,
I
but
did, yeah. Broke during the Nuggets game.
yeah. So the Sixers and Joel Embiid, I believe, are under investigation because of some kind of, let's just say, altercation that happened between Joel Embiid and a Sixers beat writer.
Mm-hmm.
That beat writer, I will say, just to describe like the background of the situation, wrote an article last week about how Joel wasn't ready for the season yet. This is kind of related to like honestly the misstatements of the team, because they kind of made it sound like, oh, Joel's just like not ready yet. Even though like to me it just was weird from the start. Like I never thought that he was like A-okay. So it like people could have, if you wanted to be like a shitty sports fan, you could have read into it and been like, oh, Joel, he's just not conditioned and not ready to come into the season. That was kind of the quote or the tone of this article by this Sixers beat writer who got into it with Embiid, but it went even further than that. There were like references to Joel's brother who had passed away and how Joel is like not,
Like letting
doing,
the city down by not
letting the city, yeah,
playing and all
letting the
that.
city down and all of that
Not
stuff.
doing
And
his
that,
job properly.
yeah. So apparently after the Sixers game yesterday, the reports are that Joel had pushed this writer after like yelling at him or like with him. I don't know like how the whole thing started, but it's basically like if you ever like say something like that again, like there's going to be problems. Well, what was your reaction to
Man.
that? I was just like, I was like, I'm trying to analyze a game right now.
Yeah, it kind of did suck that it happened during the game so that I couldn't get into it more. I could only just briefly suss what was going out. But
Right.
I had like the angel on my shoulder and devil on my shoulder situation where I was like, ooh, I could go in on this Embiid thing and really start slamming him, get some
Oh,
suspensions
you did too.
going, get some fines. We can really
Oh my
lay
gosh.
it on thick. But at the same time, understanding the context of the article and the reaction to it, and yeah, I would agree that he crossed some lines with that article, if not many lines. And so
He talks about his dead brother. He talks about his son.
yeah, you can make the point obviously without though invoking those ideas, which was the main sentiment that I saw from
Mhm.
other journalists. And I was a little bit surprised at first to see other journalists praise Embiid for this and say,
Yeah,
"Good
I
for
thought that was kind
him."
of weird.
Yeah, good for him to stand up to that journalist. Like you can't do that shit. I saw some other people say, "Hey, under no circumstances can you put hands on a journalist if you're an athlete," which I also agree with. But I would say Embiid was pretty much getting universal almost support for what he did. So I was like, okay, oh, we're not bashing Embiid. Okay, so I guess I'm not going to do that. I'll just kind of chill over here and just say,
We'll just
I'm just going to go with the bomb mentality on
taking
this
a
one.
finger to the wind on Twitter right now.
Yeah, so I do think in general we should not be glorifying athletes confronting in a physical way journalists, even if it is fucked up. But I get that there needs to be some kind of consequence, I guess, to slandering a player this in this over the top manner. But I don't know. It's weird and complicated. I'm sure he'll get another fine, maybe a suspension. We'll see what the league does.
I mean, it might not matter. I don't know if he was supposed to be ready to go. That was like the news is like, oh, he's been playing 5-on-5 and he's going to be ready to go for this game versus the Grizzlies. And then he wasn't. So that was like, I was just saying it might not matter if he's suspended. Like he might not be ready to play anyway.
Yeah, that's what's weird about
Um,
it. Yeah.
I agree. I don't think I ever condone violence, especially one-on-one, unless it's like good old fashioned political violence. But yeah, I was not okay with that. But then I found out it was the beat writer that wrote that article. Because I remember reading it last
Yeah.
week and thinking like, whoa, dude, this is like way out of pocket, way across the line. So I can imagine Embiid's frustration, but like you got to get it together. And
Hmm.
like you said, there have to be like consequences or something like that. I think he got
Oh,
universally ridiculed, first of all, for that article when it first came out, because I don't think anybody, even if they thought that Joel, like, even if they were buying the line from the team that basically made it sound like Joel, like, just wasn't ready yet. I don't think that invoking, his brother and his son is ever appropriate. But even on top of that, like, they can revoke press credentials. There's lots of
yeah, that's what
avenues
I
that you
thought
could
they
go
do.
through before it escalates to this point. And maybe like the team should have handled it that way, because like, why was this guy still allowed to be in the locker room after something like that? I think there were quotes coming out in the days following it that were Embiid just talking about like everything he's done for the city and things like that. So clearly it was already on their radar. So I don't know how this particular like incident escalated to the point that it did when they were actually like face to face.
Yep.
That's something like they're doing an investigation. We're going to find out. I Maybe we'll get more quotes from the other reporters that were in the room for that, because that's how we got this report in the first place. Apparently, the Sixers security people were trying to like ask reporters to not say anything about it. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Of course they're going to say something about it. This is a big deal. But yeah, never okay to do violence, and the 76ers are in disarray again. It seems this season.
If he is injured and I know he wants to rest and be healthy for the playoffs, and if there is a suspension coming, obviously that suspension is going to play into his favor a bit because he's going to be able to rest, which is what he wants to do.
Well, his
Um,
his knee is not healthy right now. That's the thing that the first investigation revealed is
which can I ask about that? Because I would have thought it would have
yeah.
been the opposite. I would have thought that he would have been more healthy and they were overstating a kind of knee inflammation thing to be
Yeah.
able to rest him more.
So my read on like why would Philly lie in this direction is to
Yeah.
keep putting butts in seats at these games. Like that's a
Mm,
like bad incentive that they might
like
have
we
for
never
they
know
and
when he
they've
might play.
and they exactly that, which is basically what they've been doing, sort of stringing people along.
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily impute that motive to them, but that is a plausible one,
Would people
right?
really not go just if Embiid wasn't playing to the games? The Philly
I kind
fans.
of know. I mean, maybe fewer people would go.
That's so
Like you could
weird.
probably fill an arena when Embiid's playing, because they're like, oh, our team's going to be like, they're a good team when he's on the floor, right? But when
Yeah,
he's not,
but like, uh,
like,
for example, if Jokic was out one night, everyone, the Denver arena would still be sold out.
that's true. But it's Denver. It's a
Maybe
winning
isn't
franchise with a winning
Fans?
culture.
Philly fans are passionate. I don't know,
Yeah, they're
but
passionate in every direction, which is maybe part of the problem here.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if they fill arenas in every game in Philly. Probably close, but that's just one possible motive. But that's like the way that I make it make sense. Because you're right. Like I would think if they're lying, it would be the other direction. But we even saw last year when Embiid had his he had like knee swelling. He was still like playing some games. We had no idea what was going on. Then obviously he misses a couple games. Then he tries to come back. We don't know like what. So I'm like, what is it? They're just saying like left knee swelling, like whatever. And then he but apparently he had something. That's the thing we learned after the fact, is that he had something wrong with his knee for I think well over a month before the incident with Kuminga that led them to finding the torn meniscus that he had surgery for at the end of the year. So this is just a pattern also with the Sixers. I don't
yeah.
know why. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why the Philadelphia 76ers operate the way that they do.
It did bring up a larger idea for me, the whole injury protocol and resting
Mhm.
protocol. And I thought, obviously they're going to investigate these things because they had instituted that new rule that you can only arrest a certain amount of stars or all stars or whatever the hell it was. And so if teams are lying about that, then, you investigate
Right.
it and you find them, which has happened before with the Sixers, or like, getting the wrong injury information out.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be that again, like either, if you can put an injury for a player on the injury report continuously, then you have free reign to still load manage. And so it's like a loophole can get around and load manage players however you want, which I think is, I
I
feel
mean,
like,
it's a loophole, but it's like that should exist. But if they find out that you're lying,
yeah,
like
but it's like,
I don't think that we've ever. I think there have been investigations into teams for things for like in the direction that you're saying, but I don't know that a team's ever been found to be doing that
yeah, to that level.
necessarily.
And I thought the reason
Like
is
players get injured all the time. Like
yeah, that's what I thought, that was the reason why, is because players are banged up all the time. So it's like you can find an injury whenever you want, really.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is the point of this
the
protocol?
policy.
Yeah. So I'm like, I
So
don't
a
know.
big part of it now is because of the NBA and their gambling partners.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
you
right.
don't want the betting companies getting upset at you because their customers are upset at them because a guy is listed as being available when they're not, and then like
Hmm.
parlays are put on them and like this, that, and the other, which is like, I mean, I think that's legitimate for them to want to like
Definitely.
structure this in a way. But then you'd think like teams might have the like incentives in the opposite direction when they want to like string fans along. It's not just butts and seats either. It's like eyes on the game. Because teams and like just the way that the CBA is structured, everybody makes more money when more people are watching, especially the national broadcast games, which is why they're a particular point of emphasis in the player participation policy. And that's why the Sixers were investigated after that first game of the season, because it was a national broadcast game as the season opener. So yeah, I don't even know if they would have investigated this if the Sixers were on a stretch of like games that were not on national TV.
Mhm.
But those are particular emphasis because they're revenue streams for the league. Yeah, for the league, for
Right.
the teams, for the players, because everybody shares in that pot, right? Yeah, I do feel bad for Joel a little bit because he is clearly actually injured, dealing with BS from this this reporter, and their team is mess. I feel bad for Tyrese Maxey more than anybody because I don't think Paul George has played either. I need to double check that because he's on my fantasy basketball team.
Hmm.
But he's been on the injury report out
Yep.
this whole time.
All right. Thanks for listening, listeners. But as we say, many of you who are coming here, over half, are not subscribed. So if you just found our show and you like what you hear, consider liking and subscribing because that will help us out a ton. Share, hit the notification bell on YouTube as well. Find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Follow our Instagram and TikTok. It's all under What's in a Game NBA, and our YouTube clip channel. Hopefully we'll come to you next time after some wins, because winning is really fun and losing sucks.